on an incorrect rumor that came out of Australia, actually, that had very little astrophysics behind it. However, that being said, I believe that there is some very powerful physics behind the metaphor. The metaphor is that there is, in fact, a compression wave. And that compression wave, I think, corresponds astronomically to what has been described as the erection of the Holy Cross by Nick Fiorenza, which was that the galactic, solar, and Earth equators nutate to an approximately 90-degree perpendicularity between now and 2012. And as those field effects get to what would be called a, what do you call the cross in astrology? That as you create the stressor of the crossing of those magnetic planes compressing in perpendicular relationship, you create a compression that affects the sun and forces it into the orgasm we call solar maxima, approaching before 2012. And that says the sun must participate in the orgasm of galaxies. And in order to participate requires us. Specifically, that the gene pool must generate the gravity steering force necessary to survive that solar maxima. So I think the myth of the photon cloud was really a way to access the three-dimensional magnetic compression wave Christians had been calling rapture. The rapture goes like this if you're a fundamentalist Bible thumper. There are two people seated on the park bench, right? And one person says, I feel bliss, I feel joy, I feel euphoria, and I can hear the animals speak. And the other person says, I feel pain, I feel agony, I feel like I'm burning up, I'm melting, I'm melting. And they're both sitting on the same park bench, and they're both experiencing the same experience of magnetic compression. However, one person chooses to not need secrets. You walk into the Hopi meeting tent, and they say, come in and look at the flame. The only thing you need to leave at the door is the imagination that you would ever again want a secret thought. Right? So the privilege of entering the Phi's ray, fire, mind inhabits fire, is to leave behind the need for secrets, separateness. Yeah? It's called harmonic inclusiveness. So the reason that in the secret places of the lion smells for fear at the doorway to the temple is that it's a dimpling algorithm for the onset of compression. And at the doorway to temple, what you have is the magnetic compression that tests for what's shareable. So by sniffing for fear, the lion serves you by checking to see if you will be able to withstand compression non-destructively. Resistance to spin, called fear, creates heat. So the way it works in bliss and euphoria is like this. Your body during bliss and euphoria, by the way, bliss and euphoria were measured at Monroe Institute when Ed Wilson found Fibonacci cascades in headphones created transcendence. And just minutes ago, we measured shareable waves. When we measured the EKG, created golden mean ratio, right? And then Korotkov in Russia measured euphoria and bliss as 0.62 golden mean ratio between adjacent brainwave harmonics. So three separate organizations have independently confirmed the electrical geometry of bliss and euphoria. It is not a mystery. Okay? The physics of that, what we had been calling enlightenment, which is simply successful charge compression, is such that you begin to suck your environment electrically into your body at such a rate that if your backyard is not fractal, it will drive you nuts. Okay? In other words, look, you're going to begin sucking the magnetism of your environment into your body very quickly. So in order for that to become sustainable, you do the feng shui for bliss. The feng shui for bliss is that you make a magnetic map of your bed, your house, and your backyard and your workplace. And wherever the magnetism looks like a rose, so too will your emotions. But where the magnetism looks like a dizzy, tangled up, knotted mess, you're going to find so too will be your emotions. That's why the Cherokee goes to a fractal to die. So this is one of the 4 major aspects of the hygiene for bliss. And we finished the weekend with a real conversation about the hygiene for bliss. What we're saying is that bliss and euphoria are simply the function of DNA and government to make immortality possible, as we discussed. And so the hygiene to make bliss sustainable replaces religion. Because if, in fact, you subtract the disempowerment of personality worship and miracle worship from religion, the only thing that remains is the simple physics and science of what makes bliss sustainable. And that is simply charge density. Charge density means life force in everything you eat and drink, only spring water and fresh squeezed and live food and that sort of thing. The hygiene for bliss includes the posture-induced ecstasy, the kinesthetics of bliss. And so we teach some of the kinesthetics of bliss process. We take another look at the Sufi turn, for example, in terms of the breath geometry that fabricates gravity. And Liv, who's here from Vienna, might even help us with a little bit of Gurdjieff's sacred gymnastic over the weekend. Yes, yes, maybe. And so we're going to do some tastes of the sacred movement, the sacred gymnastic for bliss process. And then we talk about the architecture for bliss. An architect can say, the house I've built is temple because you can measure the capacitance of the charge density in the room. Yeah? So that the successful architect actually measures the ability of the house he just built to attract charge. And I'll just show you some pictures in the Life Force article. So we've only completed about a third of this little presentation on implosion, and we'll finish this over the weekend. But I just want to show you this one picture just to give you an idea, since we've been talking about the measure of life force. Here, remember we talked about the voltage in the egg and the cohering of charge. Just to explain to you how we do this, I've placed a live living egg inside a biological capacitor. It's called an orgone accumulator, but orgone is a name for capacitance, yes? So now I'm going to spectrum analyze the charge emission of this egg. So I take this orgone accumulator, it's stone, copper, and hemp, okay? And I use it as a biological capacitor, and I amplify the harmonic content, the capacitance of that egg, the same way I amplify brain waves using this HeartTuner. And the probe is available for this. It's inexpensive for the HeartTuner. And here is the capacitance of this device before and after I put the egg in. I want you to see this to understand the simple principle. The egg added this cascade. See this cascade here? You see what that is? The egg is cohering charge in a wind between frequencies, which was not present here. That long wave coherence of the low frequency capacitance of that egg is the same way we take a device like this, and we take the same capacitor, a biological capacitive probe, like this, and we measure also life force in trees and plants like this. It's hemp fiber in a high impedance probe, and we could take this around this device and measure when the capacitive field of this device was beginning to implode. So what we'll do, in fact, is look for the moment, and we can tune it to do this. Got a little leak here. Oops. So we can tune the device to implode, and in that way we can optimize the charge wind to center, which causes it to become self-organizing. Remember when Schauberger's vortex device like that was about to generate voltage from gravity, he would know because it began to get cold. The reason it began to get cold was because of non-destructive compression.